Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Podcakes. Today I left the house. It was a balmy 29 degrees, freezing fog, and I had to meet the boys for a pancake brekkie down the street. We ended up leaving the cafe and doing some exploring up here, up the Malala River, and my hands today have been absolutely fantastically warm. No issues at all. Why is that, Ian? Why have your hands been so great? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. It's because of these things right here. Hippo Hands. That's right. Today's guests are Bryan and Drew, the owners of Hippo Hands. Their product is absolutely amazing. I'm not sponsored by them. I have nothing to do with the business. I just believe in them as humans. I believe in them as a company. And I believe in them because I use their product and I beat the heck out of them. And they're always there, not tearing, not ripping, not doing anything. Today we're going to learn about them in Africa. We're going to learn about Bryan in Pakistan and doing some motorcycling around there. And we're going to ultimately learn about them buying the business, changing the branding of Hippo Hands, and making it into the business that it is today. I absolutely love these guys. I absolutely love this episode. And I'm so excited to bring it to each and every one of you. Friends, if you're watching this on the Motorcycles and Pancakes YouTube channel, please make sure you go down below, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about it. Just leave us a comment, even if it's not one word. It just kickstarts that algorithm and it brings us into a greater and radder audience. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do the same thing. Hit the notification bell. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you know when the new episodes are being dropped. And if you want to take your support to the next level, please consider becoming a Patreon. It costs $2.99 a month, and you get a discount to all the merch, and you get free access, early access to all the videos, podcasts, and everything else that we're doing here on Motorcycles and Pancakes. So, friends, without further ado, here is Bryan and Drew with Hippo Hands. Drew, Bryan with Hippo Hands. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. We've kind of been wanting you guys to come on pretty much since day one. I started this thing. This is episode 20, and I put kind of this dream list together of everybody I'd want on, and you guys were right there when I started this thing. So happy that we are able to make this happen, especially as a longtime user of your products. So I would, I don't know. I'm just super excited for coming on. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ian.
Happy to be here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So I guess what we'll do is we'll kind of, in true Podcakes fashion, we'll kind of hop back a little bit and learn a little bit about you guys individually. So I don't know. Which one of you guys want to go first?
Drew wants to go first.
Oh, I was
Drew
pointing
wants
at you,
to go
Bryan.
first. It's awesome.
Okay,
So
that
Drew,
means.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you grew up and, you know, all that kind of jazz, kind of the early years of Drew.
I grew up I guess, moved to Oregon in the late 70s in Southern Oregon when I was about 10. And grew up outside of Medford.
Okay.
I had a Medford mailing address, but it was in the country out there. And we had about 5 acres. My younger brother was more of a motorcycle nut than I was. Actually, he just liked to tinker with stuff more. I mean, he was messing around with cars and motorcycles, and he had a YZ80 when I was a teenager.
Nice.
And I think the first time I rode it into a barbed wire fence, and that wasn't very good. And then the second time I rode it down an embankment and into a ditch. And then a couple of years later, and so I decided I wasn't going to ride motorcycles very much. And then a couple of years later, I was with my best friend, and they lived. They had access to a bunch of irrigation ditch roads and stuff, and we were on 3-wheelers, and my girlfriend was on the back, and I tried to take a turn too tight, and I went flying off this embankment and went between 2 trees, and the back tires just caught us, and we were just lodged between these 2 trees, like 6 feet off the ground, off of where we were coming from. But it saved us from like a major tumbleina down the hill.
Man.
And so I have had a hard time getting back on open vehicles since then. But I spent I spent I grew up in Southern Oregon, graduated from high school in Southern Oregon, then moved to Portland and got a degree in graphic design. And uh, I started. I worked for a couple of ad agencies uh, early on, and then I ended up starting a company in 1996 that became a brand consulting and design firm that I ran for 18 and a half years. And early on in that, like, I don't know, I guess I had probably, well, I just graduated from college because my first job was back down in Bedford. Bryan was dating my cousin. He was in high school. I think he was 16 or something, 17 maybe, 16, 17. And we just started hanging out. And so we've known each other for
Long.
like 30 years,
30, yeah, 35 years maybe.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's pretty bad.
well, I mean, that's kind of, I ran this brand consulting and design firm. I still do a lot of that. I do that. I run the brand stuff for Hippo Hands because I ran a company for 25, 35 years, I guess now. I manage our relationships with attorneys and bookkeeping and do a lot of the um, not exciting stuff. But I also run the brand stuff, which is pretty exciting. But Bryan has a different set of roles, and it was his thing, so he should have started.
Is
That's
that
all
my
right.
cue? Is it my turn? Is that it?
I think that's a great segue for sure.
I just handed you the baton.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, I was born in Portland, grew up in Southern Oregon. As Drew pointed out, I dated his cousin, his cousin when I was in high school. We're still friends. Uh, I started riding a motorcycle when I was about 10. I had a friend in the neighborhood who taught me how to ride his little dirt bike. I saw a little Suzuki 90 alongside the road for sale when I was on my way to church with my mom, and went back and got my cash and rode it home. That was pretty much the last time I went to church.
That sounds like a pretty good way to end things.
Yeah, I loved it from the beginning. By trade, I'm an ER nurse. I worked in a trauma center for a while, and a bunch of my coworkers rode, so we had a nice little riding group. And ironically, ER nurses love to ride motorcycles. I was doing a trip to the UK, looking for a pair of hand covers for my bike. Couldn't find anything quality. Ended up buying some, really cheap hand covers. They were terrible. Bought some expensive ones. They were not that great either. So I started sewing them. I started making them in my garage, and all my buddies who I rode with encouraged me to try to sell them. So we've obviously refined our designs over the years. So it started in my garage in Southern Oregon, me and a couple home sewers. Um, I guess that was in 2015. We bought um, the brand name only and kind of resurrected it from its roots in the 70s from Craig Vetter. Craig Vetter started it basically on a cold trip in Northern California. He had a sleeping bag figure eighted around his handlebars. It was like an old gray down sleeping bag that he duct taped onto his bars. And he's riding down the road, and his friends were calling him Hippo Hands jokingly. And he was kind of like, oh, well, joke's on you guys. My hands are warm and dry, and you guys are miserable this entire trip. So he started producing them in the 70s. And we've just kept, we've evolved our designs. over the last, I guess, 9 years now. It's kind of crazy. And yeah, so here we are, just keeping people's hands safe and warm and dry, and that's kind of
Yeah, warm hand
the
revolution.
short. Yeah, that's the short version of this story.
Well, good thing we have a little bit more time to get a little bit more in depth into that because I'd like to kind of step back a little bit too before the old Hippo Hand business kind of came around too. And I think there's a lot of fascinating things down with Drew, especially, starting your own business and being a business guy for such a long time. And then Bryan, you choosing to go a different route and like helping people and being in the trauma units and stuff like that. And I think that takes both of those things take a completely unique mindset. I was a
Yeah.
business owner for 13, 14 years, myself. And, I know biting that bullet and just going with it, it was a big chance. And I think it paid off. Sounds like it paid off for you too, Drew. And then Bryan, I think, having a career like that is I always want to ask, like with the trauma and stuff, I know a couple of trauma nurses and I'm always like, "Ugh, what's the worst?" When they're just like, I don't really want to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I really enjoyed working as an ER nurse, actually. But I also really like working for myself as far as just having diverse roles. Drew and I each have our own really diverse set of skills that have helped the business grow. I do all the product design and development and oversee production. We have a small warehouse here in Bend. I'm in Bend, Oregon. Drew is just south of Portland. And then Drew does all of the creative work, all of the marketing, all of the, like you said, all of the behind the scenes work that are skills that I don't have or don't really thrive with. So it's been a really good mutual relationship on a lot of levels. And we're
yeah,
also good friends.
absolutely. Well, that's
Yeah, I
kind
think
of a bonus
the good,
part.
well, it is, but when you go into business, it could also jack some
Yeah.
stuff up. But I think you know, Bryan and I have been around the world together. I mean, we've traveled lots of places together and been in situations where it's more like brothers than it is um, even good friends. I mean, in fact, we've been on many planes and been in lots of different places where people say, "Are you guys brothers or twins or something like that?" Which we both think is kind of funny. But
Twins, huh?
yeah,
Hmm.
I think the the mix of like I defer to Bryan on a bunch of stuff, he defers to me on stuff, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we come together and just sort of hash stuff out. I mean, because he rides as much as he does, and has a wealth of experience in the actual part of riding that is what makes us so strong. I have to lean on that kind of stuff. I get the passion. When Bryan bought the company first, and then he calls me and he's like, "I just did this," and I was like, "What? Give me more information." And we started, banging ideas around, and first thing I did was redesign the logo
Oh,
right over there.
there's the original logo.
Yeah, this is the original.
Oh, okay.
Um, and
Hmm.
so, uh, and then it's just been a sort of a collaborative. Like, I think our personalities are similar in some ways and complementary in others. And we created a voice for Hippo Hands, and when Bryan started filling me in more on like, so I spent 35 years helping other companies grow. That's, I mean, essentially, like, how do you talk about yourself? How do you build a messaging platform? What's your position in the marketplace? Who are your customers? Who are your partners? Just looking at an entire sort of ecosystem of a brand, and helping them navigate that. And then it's it's fun to do this. So I start talking to Bryan, like tell me more about Adventure Bike. And it's grown. So it's changed and grown a lot in the last decade that we've been doing this together. And Bryan jokingly says that I'm the what do you say that I'm for not riding. I know a shit ton about. Can we cuss on this, or is it not okay to do
Oh,
that?
absolutely. It's a big boy
Because that
podcast. Say
could
what you need.
happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have spent time in what I have done for 35 years, learning about what other people do, and so is it. I can't be a part of it unless I understand what's going on. And the idea that this adventure community, this dual sport adventure, dirt, enduro, that this riding community, specifically, I'm talking about like this niche. Now, I know that Harley riders do it too, and other groups do it too, but specifically, our core audience has been this dual sport adventure. Outdoor. I mean, like wilderness and adventuring kind of spirit, and the fact that I mean, I can remember like our first conversation about this where he said that everybody shares information and it's just like this, there's just tons of love that's shared, you know, all this stuff. This is what brings us all together. This is the common factor. And it's such an awesome thing that all this sharing goes on and there's so much love between riders. Doesn't matter what your background is, right? The flip side is because I don't ride, like if we're at a show or we're talking to someone, people will just turn their back on me and start talking to Bryan because I don't get it. And I totally understand that. I totally understand that. But Bryan doesn't have a wife and kids, and I have a wife and kids, and I have a history of running the defenses and things like that. So, I want to be around for him.
Well, I would be lying to say I haven't ran into my share of things unexpectedly.
It happens.
Been down more. Oh yeah, it's awesome. So, Bryan, you it sounds like you ride quite a bit. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your riding history there?
Uh, well, I started off with that Suzuki 90. Uh, I rode like a little Honda 350 through high school. I've had, I guess, a few different adventure bikes and things like that over the years. I've actually been on this, I guess, what's now considered an older Triumph Tiger. I have a 2011, and I just can't quit it because it's such a good bike.
Oh yeah.
I would say since starting Hippo Hands, I probably ride locally a little bit less than I used to, but I've been overseas to ride quite a bit in the last 5, 6 years, promoting Hippo Hands and also just seeing new places and going on little adventurous trips. I did a great trip in Europe. I got to go with Moeen Khan, he owns a company called A Different Agenda, and he takes people through Pakistan, which is a really amazing place to ride, a really wild experience. So I got to ride all through central and up into northern Pakistan a few years ago, which was incredible. I just did a
Wow.
trip to Ireland for a few weeks, which was also really very, in contrast to Pakistan, very easy and calm, organized place to ride. uh, so yeah, I guess my favorite thing to do though is ride here in the Pacific Northwest. Is just to get on my
Oh yeah.
Tiger, pack it up, put a fishing pole on there, put my camping gear on there, head out with a friend or two, and just ride back roads. I never do any highway riding. I just pretty much ride. I mean, maybe a back highway to get to a dirt road to get to a wherever we're going. Definitely like camping by lakes, getting up in the mountains, and just getting out and about. That's one of the best things about living in the Pacific Northwest. There's just so many good places to ride. I actually
I
feel like I've
cannot
been
agree more.
exploring for years and years, and I always go to new places where I'm just blown away that I'd never been there. And a lot of those places are really well accessed on a motorcycle and really a pain in the ass to get there with a car. So, love that.
Absolutely. I think being here in the Pacific Northwest, and especially like in Oregon, you get over to like Eastern Oregon, Crane, Burns, down by the Alvord and the Steens, that whole area over there is just. I don't think it can be rivaled except maybe Moab.
Right.
I think the riding is just absolutely epic, and I am the same way. The more gravel travel we can do, the better off everybody is. And in fact, over here, Drew, you might know some of these areas. I've been trying to connect the Malala corridor, the Upper Clackamas, and Goat Mountain. It's kind of this triangle of areas, right? But there's this one little strip of Weyerhaeuser land that just causes mayhem for everybody. But I know there's a way through. I know there is. I haven't seen it. I haven't been on it yet, but I've been trying. And I'll be flying down like the backside of Goat Mountain or something. And I'll be like, oh, that shows there's supposed to be a road here. And you go screaming down there, and you're like, there was a road here in the 40s, but not now, you know. And then the same thing, you'll just whip onto a road, and you're just like, this is amazing. Wait, where did this lake come from? It's just spectacular. I love that. Just exploring.
Yeah,
It's
that sums up
amazing.
the Pacific Northwest riding pretty well right there. What you just said,
Yeah.
the Steens, the Alvord, Crane, Burns, you just described the last little trip I went on. Went down like through
Oh, really?
Klamath and yeah,
Hmm.
just incredible, incredible riding.
Yeah, it's absolutely breathtaking down there. And even like in a car, if you're just somebody that's listening, you're just like, I want to go check that out. I mean, this probably not now that it's November and the snow started falling, but that Steens Mountain Loop is amazing.
Yeah,
If you can get up there, but it's over 9,000 foot at the top, I
yeah,
think. So
yeah,
you're not getting there
yeah.
now.
It's actually closed at the right in the middle of that loop right now.
Yeah.
But side note,
But
you can get through on a motorcycle. Don't tell, don't tell anyone.
right. I won't tell anybody and I won't ask how you know. Probably the same way I know a lot of those things. So
See, this
going
is the
back a
part of
little
it
bit.
that I totally get. I mean, this is like, but Brian and I did a trip. I mean, we talk about that. That was 20 years ago, right now, Bry.
I
We
know
were gone right
that's
now.
wild. Are you talking about Botswana?
Yeah, we rented a truck in
Oh,
Johannesburg,
wow.
South Africa, and we drove north and circumnavigated the Okavango Delta in northwestern Botswana. We were in the truck for 3 weeks, and then we spent a week in Maputo, Mozambique. But that was kind of our thing on that drive too, is we didn't want to be on if we didn't have to be on a roadway of some sort, we didn't. In fact, we found some stuff by talking to other people that took us down fire break roads that were not roads at all. That the traffic that you saw was an elephant or two or whatever. And yeah, so I totally get the appeal and the idea of doing that kind of trip on a motorcycle would be unbelievable.
Yeah, it
That
would
would
be
be
Yeah, I mean
amazing.
scary. It would
that
be another
scares
way to
me.
put it.
Well, there could be a lot of stuff that would be scary, yeah.
Yeah,
But
we camped on that whole trip. I mean,
yeah,
in the Kalahari, the sun goes down. We were in the rooftop tent one minute before it got
yeah.
dark. So many things are walking around out there, just totally frightening, but incredible as well.
Right. I know there's certain places where they're like, you can't ride through here,
Yeah,
because the lions are doing
yeah,
whatever. And you're like,
right.
it'd be all right. I'll go around.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. Man, so rooftop tents, huh? Right off the bat, I
Yeah,
bet.
we came
It,
back. We came back and we said, Brad, we should bring these to America because there were none then. There were none in the Pacific
Yeah,
Northwest. Could
years
you
ago.
imagine that? There was
they're
not a
everywhere now.
single rooftop tent. I know how many brands there are. We wouldn't
Oh,
be on
right.
this podcast. I would be on a beach probably somewhere.
Touche on that one.
Yeah.
Yes. So is that one of your more epic trips, Botswana?
Together, yeah, that was probably our most epic trip together, I would say. That was
Yeah, yeah, for
that was
sure.
that was incredible. That was an incredible place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds pretty. How did that even come about? You guys just like throw a dart, or were you going down there for some business or something?
No, I was newly divorced and Bryan was coming back from
Alaska.
Alaska, and he was passing through and crashed at my place for a few days. And he comes in, and I have this big paper map of Southern Africa on my dining room table. And he's like, we started talking about stuff, and I said, I'm going to do this. And he's like, nah, you probably shouldn't go by yourself. And I was in a space where I was like, I'm gonna get out of here. And he's like, nah, I should probably go with you.
Invited
And so,
yourself.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. Well, oh, look right there.
Oh
There's
yeah,
elephants and bat-eared fox and black-backed jackal right there from that
yeah.
trip.
If you didn't know, Ian, Drew is an
Wow.
incredible photographer. In fact, on
Didn't know.
this is still unbelievable. On people don't believe me, but I did a month in Africa with Drew. I didn't even bring a camera.
You didn't
Okay.
need to.
Yeah. He's
I mean,
got your
it's not
back,
like
right?
I mean,
I
I did
I have like I
thousands
have
of
like
yeah,
yeah
incredible
twelve
photos too.
thousand
I mean,
frames.
just like so much better than anything I would have taken. Although, you know what I did on that trip, I brought a back then. This was pre digital recorders. This is aging us, Drew. But I brought a mini disc recorder, and
We are eight,
I
right?
recorded audio on that trip. And what a fantastic thing to look at all of those photographs that Drew took and listen to all the audio from that trip, from border crossing conversations to animal sounds to us
Giving people rides.
given yeah, we picked up hitchhikers and us, just BSing in the rooftop tent at night. In fact, we have a pretty funny recording of us. I There were kind of lions off on this side and some hyenas vibing each other off on this side, and I just hung the microphone in the tent, and eventually Drew and I both fall asleep. You can hear us breathing heavy, and then you hear the lions walking around the truck, and all this mayhem
Jeez.
going on. We're just sleeping through the whole thing. Uh, Pretty
Well, that's
hilarious.
got to be a little exhilarating, right?
When you're listening to
We,
it the next day, yeah.
yeah, you have no idea what's going on. It's not. You just sleep like a baby.
Right? You're like, oh, I slept great last night. Never mind all the mayhem out there.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. So where else have you guys been together?
Costa Rica. Drew, when I was living up in Alaska, Drew came up and visited Alaska. We did some stuff in Alaska. Around
Then we go to New York too.
we went to New York
Did
City
some.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
last
nice.
years, I guess Drew started having kids. We haven't traveled as much in the last years, but
No, I just travel vicariously.
Yeah,
We
right.
tried to figure out a way for me to go to Pakistan. We worked pretty hard to try to get me to do that. That would have been awesome.
I think we should still put a, what do you say, earmark that one for another trip.
Yeah.
I
Put a
would go
pin
back.
in it.
I would ride Pakistan again in a second. What an interesting
Hmm.
place.
Well, we also need to go to Vietnam together. You've been a couple times
Yeah,
for
yeah.
stuff, but
All of our
we
products.
should do that in January, maybe.
Yeah, our
Anyway,
all of our sewing is done in Vietnam, so I've got a chance to go there a few times, and I would love to, take a few weeks or longer and rent a motorcycle and ride up the coast and get out of the city. I actually have really learned to like Saigon. I'm not typically a person who would travel and stay a long time in a big city like that, but being there on business, I've really learned to like it. It's really an amazing place, super safe, really great food, really great people.
The last person that talked about Saigon to me said the almost exact same thing.
Really?
Super safe, wonderful people.
Yep.
Yeah. He's kind of an old friend of mine, and he married a woman from there. So not from Saigon, but they're in and out of there all the time, going to
Yeah.
visit his or her family and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, he said the same thing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. It's a long flight.
I can only imagine, right? Yeah.
Actually, that's the argument to stay longer and take a trip afterwards. If I go there for a week
Yeah.
for business, it takes me 6 days to adjust to the 14-hour time change. And as soon as I adjust, I fly back.
Yeah. And then you have to readjust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, if you go back to Pakistan and you need a weird pancake guy to follow along and just, carry extra stuff for you, you let me know.
We would want a
That
crew
sounds
for sure.
amazing.
I'll keep that in mind,
Yeah.
Ian.
Um,
I would want a really select crew for sure. It's not the easiest place to travel
right.
by any means.
Yeah.
And you don't have much selection for bikes over there. There's unless you are extremely wealthy in Pakistan, which is a very small percentage of the people there, you have three choices for bikes. You have a Honda 70cc, you have a Honda 125. If you're killing it in life, you've got the 125. It's got kind of like an open exhaust. It's loud. It's pretty cool. And then you have a 150, which is basically for, rentals for guys like us. So you're cruising over, like, I think the highest pass that we went over was a little over 13,000 feet, 13.7 on a 150 carbureted bike.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It was
Choking it
struggling.
out.
It was struggling, let's say. But incredible. I mean, the mountains are beautiful. The food is incredible. Also, an incredibly safe place, surprisingly, um, judging by just a lot of the history and a lot of I think it's just a very poorly known place. You hear about it in the news. You don't hear a lot of people traveling there, and a lot of the places that was really evident that not a lot of Americans travel there, and not a lot of travelers. Period. To be honest.
Mhm. Well, especially in the last 20 years, I think Pakistan was getting kind of a bad rap you know, for housing the bad guys or whatever, but
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
And
Right.
they had a lot of bad
I
things happen in Pakistan because they also housed us. That was our entryway into Afghanistan. So that border's pretty
right.
contentious. Um, but at the same time, I've never traveled a place where the locals were more protective of me. Like people would go out of their way to make sure you were okay, that you knew where you were going, that you felt safe. All of that was always on the forefront with the locals.
I think it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love hearing stuff like that, especially like what we were just saying. You listen to some of the news and what the news says,
Mhm.
but then you get kind of the reality of the real locals and stuff. It's always just amazing to hear good
Yep.
stories like that,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, why don't we back it up a little bit again? And if people don't know a little bit of the previous history, like you said, he had the sleeping bag duct taped up there onto his
Craig
handlebars
Vetter.
for a while. What? How long did he have the company before? Because my interpretation and what I know is he had it for a while and he just kind of went, I'm done, and just kind of phased it out or
I
just
don't I
stopped
don't
doing
know a
it. I don't
lot
know
of
if
the
that's correct or not,
details.
but
I don't know a lot of the details from, so he ran it into like the mid 80s. And from my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Drew, I think his brother took over the company and kind of just
Mhm.
let it fizzle, to be honest.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
I,
Yeah, that's
okay,
kind of the way we understand it. We we had a connection with Craig that we were going to try to get together, but um, he had a bad motorcycle accident, and I don't know what I don't know what. Anyway, it never happened for us to get together with him to talk about that. But yeah, that's the way we understand it. Is that, and then someone in Canada was doing hardly anything. Right? I mean, you bought a pair a long time ago, right, Bry? That
yeah,
were
yeah. I mean, I knew Hippo
kind of
Hands.
the
I,
introduction to the
I mean,
to the brand.
to be honest, I knew of Hippo Hands. I called motorcycle hand covers Hippo Hands, and I didn't really realize that it was a brand. Actually, when I first was seeking out a pair of hand covers for my own bike, realized that it was an actual brand, and kind of did that research on it. Realized this Canadian guy owned the trademark on it, and he was doing some hand covers, but they're kind of home sewn, not great designs, but he owned the name. And basically, when I was exploring this idea of taking my designs and bringing them to market, um, contacted him, and he was getting older and wanted to get out of the business, and made him an offer, and he took it. That was 2015.
That's pretty cool. And then that's shortly after you called Drew and said, "Hi,
Yeah.
let's do this."
Well, yeah, I had
Yeah, I bought a
I was
company.
already hitting Drew up for work. From the beginning. It was like, hey, I need a logo, I need some ads, I need some photography, all this stuff. And Drew can speak for himself, but I know that he has done a lot of work to boost a lot of brands in his lifetime, and is really great on the creative side. And this idea kind of came to us both that we should do it together, and his skills would complement my skills, and we could work towards something that would benefit ourselves, not just doing hourly work that we were both doing at the time.
Yeah, it's pretty. I love hearing stories like this. Just let's go and do this and see what happens, And if you have somebody that you can team up with, I know, you guys were talking about sometimes it could go really bad,
Yeah.
getting in with a friend and stuff. And when I started my business, I did have a friend, Chris Carl, and he was with a company that I was going to work directly with for quite a while. And he and I started talking, and I said, "Look, man, we're gonna have a business hat and we're gonna have a friend hat. And we got to know when the different hats are on, And
Yeah.
there's a couple times I'd call him up and I'd be like, "Hey, my business hat is on right now, and I'm kind of pissed." So we'd do that and we'd have a conversation and be kind of intense or whatever. And we'd be like, "All right, switch them over." So anyways, what are you doing on Friday night? Want to come over? you know, it just changed just like that. So I think there's a lot of respect for people that just take the bullet and, or just jump with it and just go,
We had a
so it
very
happens. And it's great knowing that you guys are having some success with it.
we had a
Yeah.
really clear conversation
Moving
started
on.
about that. You know,
Oh yeah.
we've been
Yeah.
such good friends for so long, and we both just agreed that no matter what, the friendship's more important than the business, and um,
Yeah.
that's how we've operated. And we're both, I think, pretty good at taking criticisms and moving forward.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't get any better unless we can take the criticism,
You have to.
for sure. Yeah. So once you guys started moving this business, and so kind of walk me through. So you bought the rights to Hippo Hands.
Yep.
You and Drew decided, hey, or Drew and Bryan, you guys decided, yeah, we're going to do this. And so Drew, you started the creative process, right? So you're thinking, well, we got to revamp the logo, we got to get the marketing in, we got to do this. And then how many designs were there? Or did you just start from scratch? You were just like, we have the name now, and now we're going to move my own product or our own product moving forward.
We basically started from scratch. We used some existing concepts, but we basically started from scratch. We had some limitations. Well, we let's say we had some major limitations when I was sewing them in my garage. Um, as far as access to materials, laminating materials, we didn't have access to. We didn't, we had a machine that can sew straight stitches and a binding machine. That's it. So pretty limited as far as designs. I knew I had this vision for what I wanted to do. Our goal was to maintain that they go on and off really easily without tools. Um, and they are waterproof, windproof, and basically a safety feature of the motorcycle. So we went, we basically have gone with small, medium, large, backcountry, rogue, and Alcan. That's our basic rundown, and we've tried to develop them to fit any bike, almost any bike. We're trying to make them universal fit, so that affects the design as well. We used a sewing service in Washington State for a few years, and outgrew them, and also just realized that some of the design ideas that we wanted to explore were just impossible to do with the sewing services that we had access to. And we moved all of our sewing services to Vietnam. What is that? 5 years ago?
Yeah,
Maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years
4 years
ago.
ago. 4 years ago.
So I kind of
Yeah, because we had the COVID issues with getting product here.
That's right. That's right. We actually had a really tough time during COVID because we couldn't get the high tech materials. That was if you were small, you just fell to the bottom of the list as far as having access to materials at that point. So that was pretty difficult. But I paired with a really good friend here in Bend, Ryan Price, who is a designer, and he did bag design. He has got a couple brands of his own, and he helped us kind of refine what exactly we wanted to do with the product to coincide with the technologies that we'd have access to. Um, with
Well, he helped introduce us to some
He introduced us.
manufacturing technologies that sort of made the ideas come to fruition in a. It was just sort of when we started the conversation. Bryan started the conversation, and obviously he and I were talking about what we were doing, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how much is this going to cost? And we were going through this kind of stuff with Ryan and Bryan sharing his ideas, and um, it was pretty awesome how quickly it really came together. And I think that's a testament to Bryan and his ideas, and having uh, you know Bryan and I are both pretty open to input, and when people know what they're doing, it helps, and neither of us are foolish around that kind of thing. So yeah, it really came together pretty nicely.
Yeah, we ended up hooking up with a really excellent factory in Saigon, and they have grown with us really well and helped us along with some of the product development that we've done since then. And I would say every year for the last, well, for the last 9 years, but particularly in the last 4 years, we've refined our designs, and we're to a point where I think we have just like a really killer product, and it's really durable, it's really safe, it's really amazing where we're at right now. I feel like we've come to a really nice spot.
And it hasn't really
Yeah.
been that. I mean, I hate to say that. Maybe I should knock on wood, but it hasn't really been that hard to put things together. I mean, Ryan had some contacts that he helped us out, um, and our first, Bryan and I had talked about, we didn't want the stuff to be made in China. We really didn't want that at all. We talked a lot about how great it was to be made in America, and but the experience of working with this factory and the owner of this factory in particular. I mean, our first interaction with them, Bryan sent an email with some drawings, and then we had scheduled a week later, or 5 days later, we had scheduled that we were going to have a Zoom call and get a tour. And the guy was just like walking around with his laptop with the camera pointing out, showing us, oh, this is the where the materials come in. This is the sewing room. This is research and development. This is my office. And he sits down and he goes, and here's a prototype of your product. And we were just like, where do we sign?
Yeah,
I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like the
Wow.
responsiveness is unbelievable. The service is unbelievable. And uh, it's, it, we talked to one.
yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
yeah. The factory is amazing. It's super clean and organized. The owner, he feeds all of his employees every single day. It's incredible. They've got this like incredible like food area. They get an hour for lunch, and they go and I'm just hanging out. It's like killer Vietnamese and Korean food. They all smoke cigarettes, take a nap, and go back to work for another 4 hours. It's like a really killer work environment and just really streamlined. I'm like, we should be taking notes on this.
Right.
It's incredible, incredible. I'm thinking like I work twice as many hours a week than any of these people here. Like we should be taking notes.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, I remember when I first got my first set of Hippo Hands was probably, oh man, I don't know, like 20, 21,
Hold on,
something
I'm
in
gonna
there.
look it up. I'll tell
Was
you.
that?
I'll
Oh,
tell you when
yeah.
you ordered them.
What
Well,
bike were you putting them on?
that wouldn't be the first one though, because I don't think I bought the first set. I think my pops bought them for me for Christmas or something,
Mm,
and we ended up buying that, and then they weren't big enough. They were the backcountries, right? Yeah,
yeah.
Mhm.
and I wanted something a little bit more. My dad was like, "No, you don't want more," and I'm like, I kind of do. And so at the time, the neighbor Dave down the street, he had something, and we ended up kind of swapping them out for a little bit. And I was like, I need the bigger ones for sure. So he bought those for me, and I believe I bought the Alcans, the ones that aren't they're not the new ones with the back end on them anymore. Those ones, like Sean, you guys know Sean, ADV Oregon. He
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we come pulling up to a stoplight, and he's just kinda like, "Yeah, that's right, how are your hands?" I'm like, "Easy there, Beamer guy." But, no, it's the product's fantastic, and in fact, I just went riding,
Yeah.
on Saturday. We went up again, Goat Mountain, and I was with this new guy. I literally went to Corner 14. We have this, like, food carts down the street here, and for whatever reason, I'm going down there, beer, burger, whatever I'm having, and this dude's getting off his motorcycle on the exact same motorcycle that I just bought. I'm like, "Oh my god, we're Africa twinsies." Like, literally, that same color, same model, same everything, right? And so we just start shooting it a little bit, and so he doesn't I don't think he has a lot of guys friends that he's riding with, so I was like, "Well, you gotta go with me." So we ended up texting and stuff, so we're up in the snow, and he's like I'm shooting, like, an intro for the podcast before this one, and he's like you can just see if he's, like, looking at it, he's, like, kinda taking the Velcro off, and he's kinda really looking, and he goes over at the other one, and he's looking around, he's like, "I need a pair of these." I'm like, "Yes, you do." And I told him about the new ones with everything in the back, and he's like, "Oh." It was a lot of fun, man. Yeah, it was a lot of
Yeah, you
fun, like,
ordered your
good brother
Alcans
stuff.
in September 21.
There
So
you
you're
go.
due for a new pair. We'll hook you up.
Yeah, those new ones are pretty cool. The one thing I don't like about it though is it makes it really hard when I do pull next to Sean to hit his kill
His
switch,
kill switch.
you know. Yeah, you gotta like slide
Oh,
your
the
hand on
trials and
top of his first,
tribulations.
Yeah.
right? Is there any way we
Sorry we
can
did
make a
that for
design
you.
with the Velcro on top? Yeah.
You know what? You're right, Ian. We should put a big hole in the top.
Yeah, just a Velcro one that we could just open up real quick, just for
Great
shenanigan
idea.
reasons, call it the shenanigan flap. Yeah.
It's a great idea.
No,
Shenanigan flap. I could do some stuff with that. That's good.
yeah, new T-shirts for you guys. No, I really love the product, honestly, and I'm not saying that because you guys are here. And like I said, when I first started this,
No,
you
we
guys were on the
know.
top of the list of coming in. You know, I love it, and I really enjoy. To me, it also seems like you guys give back quite a bit too. I've noticed you guys sponsor some things in like Critter Moto with Get Lost, Find Yourself, and you guys are up there giving some product away for him to earn some money on raffles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, I really notice that kind of stuff. And that says a lot about a business too, because a lot of businesses are like, yeah, no, you're not big enough, or yeah, we don't really want to do that. And I also think that goes full circle with this community as we were talking
100%.
about earlier.
It
This
comes
Well,
back
community
to
is
the
just
think it's
community
amazing.
aspect of motorcycling in general. And
Yeah.
we love being involved with groups that we like.
well. I also
It's hard
think
not to
that
like Critter.
at Veterans Back 40, you have that flag in the
Yeah.
back there behind you.
Hmm.
We do stuff with Ride North up in Alberta. We sponsored that ride, the Baikal project, a couple years ago. That was the old one, so that's probably what you have on your bike.
That's worth
Yeah.
checking out if anybody's listening. The Baikal Project. These guys are.
Yeah, that,
They rode
it was
across Lake
insane
Baikal in the middle of winter.
in February.
Wow.
7 days camping on ice. They set 2 world records, the longest moto ride on ice. I don't know what the other one is. They were very similar. I don't know what the distinguishing factors, but they set 2 Guinness records. And all 6 of the bikes were exactly the same, and they all had the Alcan product on them. And they, I mean, we jokingly say we know that you love your product because people who, people who laugh at them or whatever for what they look like, that's by the way, in the last 18 months, that's changing. That the mentality behind like this being almost a normalized addition to an adventure bike is pretty exciting for us because that the core philosophy about helping other people is that's easy. And Bryan and I, neither one of us are greedy. Maybe we should both be a little greedier when it comes to business. But I think that, our whole point is that we're doing something that enables a passion. Like this is what people love. It's something that people choose to do. And some people, it's like when you see what Veterans Back 40 is doing. Are you part of that, by the way?
No, I'm not a veteran.
Yeah.
Just a real recap on that. I'm friends with like JJ and Bryan and Sean and
Yeah.
all those guys.
Yeah.
And they've really helped me out. um, Not only as a friendship, and I wanted to support what they were doing because I really bought into what they were doing for vets. And so when I started this thing, Sean gave me this little baby flag. You'll put it
Yeah.
next to your American flag. Okay. And then Sean was like, "Oh, I need that back." So I went over there. I'm like, "Yeah, man, here you go." And he's like, we got you a real flag now." I'm like, boom, there it is. I
Nice.
think that's pretty stellar. And then June 30th, I got into a pretty gnarly motorcycle accident. And one of those things, I was with my pops. I thought he was dead. The whole thing went on and it was kind of just screwed up, totaled out my first Africa twin. Crazy. Well, the following weekend, I didn't know, but those guys kind of rallied and had this little conversation, really, I think, spearheaded by Sean. And Mop and Madness was the following weekend. And Sean was like, "You're coming. You're going to be our guest. You don't need to pay for anything. You're just going to show up and you're just going to relax and you're going to around brotherhood." And I was like, okay. So, mentally, that was kind of a pretty crazy time for me, especially with that
Yeah.
accident. Everything was going on with my dad. There was a lot of it wasn't my fault, but there was a lot of guilt with it at the same time. And so it was just really nice just to hang out with those guys. And then Sean and I ended up going for a ride, and just him and I, we went from Maupin to Mitchell, had lunch, and we rode back, and we went through the old Rajneeshi place and up and over the hills and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was a phenomenal like off-road day, and something that was just absolutely needed for sure. So I'm not 100% a part of their program. I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
loosely affiliated with that program.
Yeah.
So there's my Cliff Note
Well,
version
then
on
we're
it.
birds of a feather. Yeah.
They're great
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
The other
And what they're
Brian
doing
who
is
lives
awesome.
here in the Bend area, him and his now wife,
Yeah,
they're
Tiffany.
Yeah.
amazing. They're both really great individuals. They're so awesome that like Drew will come up here to do a photo shoot, and if they can make it, they'll come. They show up and ride with us and have fun, and they're always great to hang out with.
Yeah.
Oh
They're
yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, good folks. In fact, I think last year, I think it must have been Drew that was going to go do some of your advertisement shoots or something, or Grace, maybe one of those two.
Grace was
But
helping us. Yeah.
yeah, Sean was like, I don't know how it came about. He's like, "You're coming." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And at the last minute, business. You're like, I can't make it, man. I got to go do this thing.
Wait, was that like in October when we were going down to what's that place outside of Badlands, outside of
Yeah,
outside of
I think so.
like southeast of Bend? Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
drove
think
down
that.
that morning. I left at like 4:30 and shot for 2 hours and then turned around and drove back.
Yeah, Ian, we need to get you on.
Yeah, it was Sean and Bryan. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so good. So good dudes.
Yeah.
You like I don't know. When they get together, though, it's a little crazy. Last time I was around them by a fire, there was a lot of whiskey involved, and some stories came out. It was like, we are all 12-year-olds, aren't we?
It happened.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. It's all good. So once Drew, there he is. So Drew, when all this started, and you're kind of the marketing guy and brands and all that, what was your kind of first initial thought and kind of trajectory of what you were thinking? Did you have kind of a plan in place where you were like, I really think we need to get obviously a new logo involved and really market that and become the brand? Or was it more of just like, we just got to get in front of the people now and all that? What kind of was the
Well,
trajectory of your thoughts there?
you know, at the very beginning, I didn't know enough about what we were doing to have like a strategic plan, but our plan has been to um, educate riders essentially. I mean, we just have to assume that nobody knows that warm hands are even an option. So if you start there, and we've sort of, well, not sort of, we very consciously said we're here to take care of riders' hands. And when you think about what that means from a safety standpoint, from a feel, dexterity, all the things that Hippo Hands allow you to feel your bike more, um, have your hands not be fatigued from thick, heavy gloves that, you know, all the things that can slow you down. Essentially, those are things that participate in the process of slowing you down. Um, so our first thing was we have to educate people that this is an important piece. The second thing is from our standpoint is the more, and I'm making a little circle here back to what you're talking about of these groups, because um, in order to educate, the best thing that you can do is see a pair of Hippo Hands on a bike. I mean, we can sit here and do. I don't like the word marketing. You've used it a couple of times, but I did not say that when I described what I do.
Sorry.
It's okay. I mean, the reality is it is that thing. Um, but we have been looking at building, like Bryan came up with this idea, the Warm Hands Revolution, and I was like, it took me a minute to like fully understand that, but what it is it's sort of like a brotherhood. So our intent is to get Hippo Hands on as many bikes as we possibly can. And so how do we do that? Like if we have a model that goes out of season, and we did this with Veterans Back 40 2 or 3 years ago, it was when we completely changed over, right? I mean, we went from the old, what do we call that, Bri?
Yeah,
Generation
earlier
one.
generation.
The earlier shitty stuff. I mean, it wasn't shitty. It was actually really nicely made, but compared to what it is now, it was nowhere near. So we switched over to our new silhouette. We had a bunch of product. I don't know how many. I don't remember who I met with, but I met with them in Oregon City, and I think we gave them like 20 pairs and give these to everybody. You can use them as raffles. You can give them to riders who are joining your events and doing the things that you guys do. And we could have sold them, I guess. We have a discount section of our website, so we could have sold them, but that's I mean, they're just sitting in the warehouse when they could be on somebody's bike and then other people can see them. And my mom just said, "Hey, what color are Hippo Hands?" She just sent me a text like 2 hours ago. And I said, "Well, we have black and gray right now." But she's like, I just saw 2 motorcycles go by and they had Hippo Hands on. And she's in
Awesome.
Tucson.
We still get excited
Yeah.
about that stuff.
And totally.
Oh yeah, dude, for
Totally.
real.
I mean, we're getting into the season. Like if you see a bike out riding around, and Ian, the weather in the last couple of days here has been not nice.
Amazing.
Not
Yeah.
nice. In fact, this morning was almost to my least favorite weather, which is pouring rain and 35 degrees. That sucks.
Yeah.
My cousin lives in
Nope.
northern Michigan. He's like, man, I'm not moving to Oregon. That sucks. Where you guys live, that's nasty. He lives in, he gets like 7 feet of snow and, 8 degrees for like, it never doesn't get over 10 degrees for weeks. And he's like, I'm not moving to Oregon. That sucks. So this is a good spot. But I think, you asked about our strategy and then I digressed. Shocking. But yeah, the plan is to educate people that you can have warm hands. You can ride and not have cold hands because cold hands suck. We did a raffle with the group in Colorado, and this was before the new styles. And this dude, it was a Facebook group, and the guy was really, the administrator of the Facebook group was really great about letting us in because we're a brand, and he didn't want to do that, but they made an exception. He said, hey, talk to the group, and so we put some stuff together, messages together, and sent them to him. And we said we're going to raffle off a couple pairs, and one of the guys who we chose randomly was a helicopter mechanic outside of Denver somewhere. I don't know, in Colorado. And it was like 40 degrees, and he rides his bike to work, and it's 40 degrees. And he sends me a message like, man, I'm going to write a review on this because this is unreal. This is like, I got to work and my coworker's like, are you crazy riding your motorcycle? And he said, I will say this is the first time in 40-degree weather or less that I've noticed what a beautiful place I live and not how fucking cold my hands were. Because that's all he's thinking about is how do I get where I'm going? And you're not paying attention to everything else that's going around. And so, like, I half jokingly said, we know that you love them because people who put them on and use them love them.
I still love getting
because they work.
Straight up me.
I love getting messages like
Yeah.
that. Even to this day, when you get a message that said,
no doubt,
I've been commuting to work on my motorcycle for 20 years. I cannot believe I didn't have these before.
Right. I didn't know about these.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a big.
I think it's to the point now. So I think it's to the point now to where, at least in my eyes, in my dual sport adventure community, it's almost weird this time of year. Somewhere in that September, October timeframe is when I really start noticing them being on.
Yeah.
But by the time you get here into November and I start seeing somebody riding by or something, I'm like, dude, where are your Hippo Hands, bro?
Right.
It's weird to see a bike without them than with them. If
Right.
that makes sense.
Because you know their hands are cold. It doesn't.
100%.
If you're going 65 miles an hour down the highway at 30 degrees or even 40 degrees, I don't care what gloves you have on. It's cold. It's cold. It's just such a simple concept. Just keeping the wind and rain off your hands. It just makes it more fun, which is ultimately what we talk about, like the warm hands revolution, extending your riding season. Obviously, if you like to be on your bike, why not get your bike out earlier in the spring? Why not keep it out later into the winter, right? Just extend that riding season, but also do it in a way that it's comfortable and fun. It just makes it more fun.
And they're so easy to get on and off.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, well, it's going to be 80 degrees today. I'm going to take these things off. Or you'll be like, well, it's supposed to be like 60 degrees today, but it's going to pour down later this afternoon. I'm going to leave them on.
Right.
It's just that.
Oh my gosh. And wear just dirt bike gloves when it's cool instead of bulky gloves.
Yeah.
The best.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, I went out a few weeks ago and yeah, about 2 weekends ago, and I rode the Nestucca River and just cruising down that whole beautiful road and
Yeah.
stuff. And I was doing a little video on it. Video to come, people. And man, it was so cold in the morning, and I wasn't sure on what gloves to wear, but I wore my bulky ones, and it was like 11 in the morning. I was like, "Ah, should have wore my other gloves." It's just for that same reason. When you're holding on to those big bulky things. In the morning it was like 30, I think it was 37 degrees when I left the house and foggy.
Yeah.
So you're always like, it's gonna be freezing fog, or am I gonna be okay?
Right.
But yeah, obviously it was okay. But yeah, dude, products is rad. So what made you guys change from Gen 1 to Gen 2, if we will, in loose terms there? Was it just time for an upgrade, or did you guys see an
Well,
opportunity, or
we saw basically I had design ideas that were just impossible to implement um, at, at that time. So basically keeping the materials lightweight but also waterproof. Um, we've also added a lot of reflective material. There's a lot of really awesome modern materials now that weren't available 20 years ago. I mean, we use what they refer to as black reflective, so it looks dark gray or black in daylight, but when lights hit it or a flash hits it, it lights up like reflective. So design wise, you don't have these big strips of silver like the old reflective stuff on there. The polyurethane based materials, not totally dissimilar to the materials that they use to make rafts out of. They make that in really thin materials. And we just explored all sorts of. Yes, Drew, do you have a comment, sir?
Drew's hold his hand up?
You're muted.
Who's muted?
Drew is muted.
That's because the
Oh,
second of my three children was just out here calling me. Sorry about that. No, I was just thinking of can we talk about the Moscow meeting that we had?
Oh, yeah, why not? We love Moscow. Those guys are awesome.
yeah.
So a buddy of mine who's an insurance guy in Hood River, he and I were just talking about, well, we were talking about Hippo Hands, but he was like, oh, I have another client who is in white salmon, and he said it's Moscow Moto, and like, yeah, I know those guys. Oh, I mean, I know the brand, but he said, yeah, I'll connect you and Pete. So Bryan and I went out there and met with them, had lunch with them, and we showed them our products and stuff, and we were just shooting the shit with them. And I don't know, there was like 6 or 8 of the team. It was awesome. And since then they've I don't know how big they are now compared to what they were then, but they've grown quite a bit.
They hadn't
But here
even
we are,
they hadn't even
two.
gotten into apparel at that point. It was
Oh,
really
really?
early.
Really?
Yeah,
So it's been a minute. Okay.
Yeah, they
it's
had
been a
they had
minute.
some mannequins, but it was like, yeah, early on.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, we're out there, and we have hanging out with them, and they're okay, looking at the stuff, and then um, the next we were leaving, and they go, hey, one of them comes up to us and says, hey, we're going on a ride later, like next week or something, and we're going to the Alvord. Would you guys send us some stuff? So Bryan, we sent him like 5 or 6 pairs of backcountries, I think,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. All the
The
guys that have
feedback,
enduro bikes, enduros, and
yeah,
Right.
ADV
the
bikes.
feedback was, first, let me say, they were like this. First, let me say, these things are a total game changer. Unbelievable. It was so awesome to go for a ride when it's 30 degrees outside, and first thing in the morning, watch the sun come up, and you're just ripping across the desert, and your hands are not cold. And then they said the painful criticism. They look like shit. You guys need to make a change, because you got something here. You're just not going to sell it
They just
because
need
it
to be
looks like
sexy.
shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they were,
Yeah.
there was no sugarcoating on it. I think they may have said it. They may have said more like that, but yeah, that's the way I heard it. And Bryan heard it. They just aren't sexy enough. So Bryan made them sexy.
From that same conversation
Nice.
on that same trip, I think it was the same. Those Moscow guys hopefully they all have Hippo Hands at this point. But one comment that Pete said was that there were, I don't know, their crew, I mean, hats off to them. They take a week off a couple times a year. They go ride, which is awesome. Talk about community, really awesome. But he said there were it was really cold. There were people in our group that had Hippo Hands on their bikes, and there were people who were miserable. Basically, like no.
What a compliment.
These things may be a little ugly, but the people riding in the morning with Hippo Hands on their hands had smiles on their face, and everybody else was wrapping their hands on their tailpipe trying to warm up.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So, what made you put those? I don't even know what you call them on the new Alcan, the backing on it.
Oh, the
Where you
wrist
kind of put your
closure.
hands through.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so like I said, they're kind of small, medium, large. We're
Mhm.
that group of people who want the larger ones are the kind of riders who they're going to get on their bike and ride up through the Canadian Rockies. They're gonna they're gonna ride the Alcan Highway. They're gonna do big, long, potentially really grueling trips with potentially really inclement weather. So we wanted, there's nothing on the market that really covers you the way those Alcans do. So they're a little bit deeper than our midsize one. They have that wrist closure. So basically they're designed for really harsh weather and really long periods in bad weather. So um, the wrist closure helps backdraft, right? You've got this big hole in the back. It's blocking all the wind from the front, but there's air cycling through still. So that reduces that. And it also helps retain heat. A lot of modern bikes have heated grips, but everybody knows, you know, you turn your heated grips to high when it's cold and your palms are hot and your hands are cold, right? So it helps retain some of that heat in there. For most applications, other than the ones I just described, for ADV bikes and enduro riding and even most touring and commuting, that Rogue, that mid-size is totally sufficient. The biggest thing that it's doing is blocking the wind from the front, just that punishing wind on your hand, and obviously keeping them dry. So we wanted to differentiate the three models even more and making that Alcan even better suited for those really intense riders and riding conditions. It's kind of set aside for that riding group. If that answers your question.
Oh, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. And I think it's great being able to see because I'm sure there's still going to be stuff that's added to the next generation of it.
Sure.
Whether it's a shenanigan flap or not. Um,
I'm all for the shenanigan.
oh, I love it.
I'm going to
I
make a
love it.
note of that.
Drew's gonna
Oh, that's pretty
use that.
fantastic.
Shenanigan flap.
Oh, good.
Shut your shenanigan flap. Sean,
So
shut
what's
your shenanigan flap.
so what's next for you guys? Just kind of staying the course. Any good plans coming up? Any new products coming up? Swag or anything?
Well,
Because I see you're kind of out of t-shirts.
we
That's because Brian's wearing it.
I'm wearing the last one.
You're the one that sold it out. Okay.
There's a few things that we have. So we're selling hand guards now. We have flag style hand guard, like a brush guard. We're developing a lever guard. That's actually, the prototypes are going to be in my hot little hands here next week, which is great. We're doing those in conjunction with a company down in Albany, Oregon, Moscow, or sorry, not Moscow, Molecule Moto.
Molecule Motorsports.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Molecule, they do a lot of really killer skid plates and aftermarket add-ons for hard enduro and enduro riders, and they helped us develop our flag style handguards, and our goal is to be able to sell lever guards for like BMW RTs, um, vintage bikes, a bike that wouldn't be a typical bike that you'd want to put, you know, a big full size handguard on, but you want to be able to
Mm-hmm.
put Hippo Hands on the bike. So it's enough support to keep them from blowing back onto the levers and to keep them solid on your bike without being obtrusive. So lever guards, meaning they attach to the bar end only and just extend in front of the your levers. Um,
Yeah, got them pulled up right here. They look really nice.
they are really nice.
We also have we also have the Rogue and the Alcan CF models, which have a clear front panel on the front that are available now
Yeah.
at hippohands.com.
Yeah. Did you see those, Ian? The
I'm
the clear
going
front.
back up
So
to the top again. Oh
so
yeah,
the
where you
new
can see like the lights in
GSs,
them.
yeah, they have the new GS 1300s as an option have integrated turn signals in their handguards, as do a bunch of Ducati models from past generations. So basically, you're able to put your Hippo Hands on your bike and people can still see your turn signals. So that's a new one. And there's actually another one, Drew. We're actually making
Yes, go ahead.
we're actually making hand covers for bicycles and e-bikes. So there's a Cascade model you might see on there. So anything with a straight handle, like mountain bike handles, or most e-bikes have straight handles.
Fat tire bikes.
Fat tire bikes, they're great for places like Sun Valley, Park City, Jackson Hole. They do a lot of winter mountain
Yeah.
biking on fat tire bikes, and they're just really killer. Same concept, your hands in a little warm cave, protected from the elements while you're ripping around during the winter time. So they just zip on. They're really awesome. We're also making them out of the hippo skin, the super durable material that we make our motorcycle hand covers out of. So yeah, I guess we have a lot of things on the table right now.
Yeah.
Dude, that's super
We have some
rad,
other things.
honestly.
We have some other things that we're not going to share. Some ideas that we're not going to share right now.
Well, that's okay. No, I'm actually really impressed. I mean, the way to move in, especially with like the e-bikes and mountain bikes. I mean, very similar market, yet it's a different beast for sure. I think that's
Well,
pretty
we were
rad.
kind
And
of
then
thinking.
also,
Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry,
no, it's all right.
Ian.
No, keep going.
We were kind of thinking that so many of the moto brands are the bike brands are have been talking about and introducing e-bikes that we wanted to be ahead of that. So that was sort of the impetus to push us into that space. But then we start thinking about what Bryan was just talking about, like fat tire bikes in the winter and obviously mountain bikes 3 season. You could ride mountain bikes 3 seasons and get into some chilly weather. Um, and I put him on he's 12 now, but when he was 11, we gave him a mountain bike and we put a pair of Cascade prototypes on his bike, and he's just ripping around, and he's like comes back, and it was in the mid 40s. It's like, pop, my hands are all sweaty, because it was so warm inside there, and he had no gloves on. He was just riding around the property. So yeah, I mean, it's cool that they're for all ages. They're easy to get on and off again. I mean, they go on, and we did some install uh, videos in early October, and they go on in like 9 seconds.
Yeah,
No tools.
it just zip on, which is really
Yeah.
cool. I think the truth is a lot of people who like to be on two wheels like to be on two wheels, including myself. I
Yeah.
know so many people who love motorcycles who also love their mountain bike, also, commute on an e-bike. That is, once you get used to being on two wheels, it's just it's a lot of fun.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Well, I think we were on a little bit of a time frame, and I think we're right about there, actually, from what you guys were saying. So I don't want to take advantage and run you guys a little bit over. So probably a good place to stop this little thing here. But man, guys, for not knowing you guys personally, and just being a fan of your product and having you guys come on. It's been, I'm trying to kind of contain myself from nerding out too much, but it's quite the honor to have you guys take your time, come on here and, showcase not only your business, but you guys as people and a little bit of your guys' adventures together. I hope this is a good insight for somebody who wants to maybe know more about your guys' company and stuff. And, I'm just very thankful that you guys decided to come on and do this little podcast here of mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian.
It's really our pleasure. That was awesome to meet you more than just your Instagram moniker. You actually have a name.
I do.
Kinda
I
weird.
do.
'Cause you
Yeah.
know,
Everybody
we were
still
talking
calls me
about all these
Pancakes.
people, like Brian Mitchell and Tiffany and Grace. Like I think of all these people as their Instagram handles.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, those people. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I never thought when I started Motorcycles and Pancakes that people would just call me Pancakes. I'll go to an event, I don't hear
That's a
Ian.
great
It's just like,
nickname.
Pancakes, what are you doing?
It's
Yeah, I don't mind.
It's a lot better than Dork. Who's another one of our friends.
Love
Yep,
Dork.
yep. I'll leave that one alone. Yeah,
Ben's a
he's
great dude.
Yeah, good
Ben's
dude
a
for
great
sure.
dude.
Absolutely, man.
Well, Ian, are you going
Yeah.
to events this next spring or summer? Where do we see you next in person?
You will see me kind of wandering around everywhere. The staple event for me is the Get Lost, Find Yourself up in Canadian land.
Yep.
Trying to hit other things this year. I've been invited on a few pretty decent trips, so I don't know kind of where I'm going at this moment. We also have a tentative project going on in June, which is actually a pretty massive endeavor. If we get everything going on, I don't know. The only thing I can say is if you're curious to know where this pancake guy is going to go is just go to the website. It's motorcakesadv.com and just go
Right
under
on.
events and I'll just put Roma to be right there. But yeah, if you guys are looking to do any riding or something, just let me know, man. I'm there.
Heck yeah. Right.
Well, I was just I was thinking about a photo shoot or some video stuff or something. Would you be down for joining us on that stuff?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Just shoot me a date and if there's something going on, I'll make sure to shift stuff around, I'm pretty easy going
Actually,
with that stuff.
It'd be cool to shoot some stuff right up around Malala and Oregon City. I mean, even downtown Oregon City. It's cool.
Oh yeah.
Cool vibe.
It snowed up here last
absolutely.
night. If I come down there, I got a trailer down.
Sounds like a
all right.
personal problem to
We'll
me.
figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much riding up here.
Ian,
what
bikes do you have currently?
Right now I've got in the garage, I've got a 2024 Honda Africa Twin. Then I kind of loosely ride my dad's spare bike, the Super Tenere. It's called Eeyore. It's because it's big and slow and unexciting, And he's also got a Super T, or excuse me, a T7. But with that accident, you guys don't know this. I'm sure a lot of these listeners do. He actually had brain surgery because of that accident, and it was kind of a pretty major deal. And I'm not really sure if he's ever going to ride again. To be honest, he's 75 now. Off road, he was really getting kind of slow, and he had time to being right at that tempo where you're not really paying attention because you're going so slow, but you kind of are just a little bit, and then he would get on freaking asphalt and you're just like, yo, slow down a little bit. We're doubling ad 5 around the corners, so yeah,
Hats off
we'll
to
see.
him for riding that
long. Oh yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Some of the best riding in my life has been with that guy. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys know how to get a hold of me.
Glad you have those memories. Yep.
I'd be happy to join in on any kind of the reindeer games you guys want to do. So it'd be good for sure. Yeah,
Right
and I'll
on.
keep an eye out for you guys are going to be too, and might crash some of your booths somewhere this time.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
For sure.
We'll be out and about this summer for sure. Ian,
yeah,
really nice to meet
you
you.
guys have
Take
a list
care.
yet of where you're going to be? Yeah. You guys have a list?
we-
I'll put it down in the show notes, and if not, then
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's all good.
That's a discussion we need to have, actually.